going on, YouTube? Paul Piper back here with you. And tonight, I want to comment a little bit on a very profound scene in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to watch it. It's a 1975 classic. It's, I believe, rated number 33 in the American Film Institute's top films of all time. Just a fantastic movie, and very neat cultural perspective, historical perspective, especially when talking about the subject of mental health treatment. Just a fantastic performance by the protagonist, played by Jack Nicholson. And as we discuss that tonight, we'll be smoking a very old pipe. Got this WFB with the gold-plated bowl cover and the accent piece there. Very old pipe, definitely pre-1930. Got to do a little bit more research on it. I looked up WFB, can't recall off the top of my head what company it is, but I did find it. And this evening I'm smoking some Dunhill Nightcap, one of my favorite late evening blends. So let's talk a little bit about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And the film was adapted from the book, so it'd be interesting to compare the two. I haven't read the book, but the movie's one of my favorites. It's one that I can revisit over and over again, and it's one of those movies that if you do revisit it, you'll pick up on little things that will give you a deeper understanding that maybe you didn't pick up on in the previous times that you watched the movie. But I'll give you a synopsis. The film takes place in a state mental hospital, and Jack Nicholson's character is a guy by the name of R.P. McMurphy. Randall McMurphy. And McMurphy was sent to the state mental hospital from prison because there was an allegation. I don't know if he made it or the staff at the prison thought that he might be mentally ill and not a good candidate for prison life. And he was in like a work farm, and when he gets transferred over to the mental hospital, some of the treatment providers are kind of skeptical, saying that there's nothing wrong with him. He's only doing this because he was lazy and he wanted to get out of the work farm and prison. But they wanted to run some additional tests and see what was actually going on. He never claimed when he was there that he was crazy. That all he said was, he was basically an individualist. When it comes right down to it, they said, well, you have assaulted 5 people. You've gotten into 5 fights while he was in prison or at the work farm. And he retorts by saying, well, what if I were a boxer? They make millions beating people up and getting in fights. And, the movie is about repression of individualism, of how society basically forces everybody into conformity. There's scenes where Nurse Ratched, who's this evil fascist nurse that runs that ward in the hospital, she gives pills to everybody, just like clockwork. Gives them pills to basically make them zombies. And instead of actually trying to provide actual therapy to them, they're not interested in that. They basically just want them to conform. And when they bring McMurphy on, McMurphy doesn't have any genuine mental illness. His is literally, he is just a free spirit, an individualist. And they have to break him. And he kind of pushes the limits a little bit on what's acceptable. And little does he know that he won't be released until they sign off on it. And the more that he engages in his antics to be an individualist, to be a free spirit, to have personality, that's just sealing his fate, that he's going to be forever institutionalized. And he befriends Chief Bromden, who's played by the Native American actor Will Sampson, and great actor. I love his movies. He's in The Outlawed Josie Wales as well. He was a brick wall of a guy, very tall, just a big dude, and just a great actor. I've always enjoyed his characters. And Chief pretends, he's this great big guy, he pretends to be deaf and dumb, so everybody kind of leaves him alone. They don't pick on him because they figure he's unable to communicate or understand what they're trying to say to him. So McMurphy tries to interact with him, tries to bring out his personality, and Chief responds to it. And it turns out that Chief is actually, not deaf or dumb. Finds out the truth, that it's just an act so that he can get people to leave him alone. And one of the most touching scenes, the most compelling scenes for me in the movie is when McMurphy finds out that Chief, it's all been an act, and he kind of wants to know why and what's going on. Why were you doing this? And McMurphy still doesn't really understand. And Chief says, "My pop was real big. He did like he pleased. That's why everybody worked on him. The last time I saw my father, he was blind and diseased from drinking. And every time he put the bottle to his mouth, he didn't suck out of it, it sucked out of him. Until he shrunk so wrinkled and yellow, even the dogs didn't know him." And McMurphy responds by saying, "Killed him, huh?" And she says, "I'm not saying they killed him. They just worked on him. The way they're working on you." And that kind of summarizes the whole movie. That scene summarizes One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You have Chief, whose father was a man of large physical stature, and in early life did as he pleased in society. And what do we in society do to people when they try to be individualists? Try to have their own opinions. We don't really tolerate that. We do a pretty good job at a very young age of eliciting conformity and making sure that everybody is educated, under the same curriculum, the same regimentation, in their daily life from a very young age. And it's not just about respecting authority and teaching people skills and just, I guess, the practical or functional aspect of it. There's more to molding people into worker bees who don't question things, who don't challenge authority ever. I'm not saying that you should always be protesting and, being a nonconformist to the 10th degree. But our society does a pretty good job at making sure that people know their place, fall in line, and never question their place. Just take the pill. Take the pill and don't ask questions. And that's one of the things in the movie that McMurphy's like, I'm not taking these unless I know what they are. And Nurse Ratched says, well, you'll either take them orally or we'll administer them in a much less pleasing way. And that's the power of the state. That's the power of the state acting on one person, saying, you're institutionalized, we're going to do this. And he wasn't in there for the right reasons. He wasn't in there because he was actually mentally ill. He was in there because he was just a nonconformist. He was an individualist. And, it speaks beyond just that scene in that movie. It's much more demonstrative of our society at large. Like I said, they worked on him. And you can have somebody that tries to be an individualist and live their own life and be free, but they'll work on you. See how long you can hold out. And chances are a lot of people who initially have that sort of mentality of, I'm my own person, I'm free, when they work on you, what do? You'd be like Chief's father and turn to the bottle until the bottle destroys you. Some people turn to drugs, any number of things. And that's sad. That's sad that we live in a society like that. But it's just a really good movie, and I highly recommend that you watch it. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's kind of a bittersweet ending, and I'll leave it at that. But definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It's Jack Nicholson at his finest. Will Sampson, great performance. Just a fantastic movie. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you here tonight, since I just watched it again for the upteenth time, and that scene was kind of tugging on me there, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. So, anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit like, check out my other videos, subscribe if you haven't, and thank you for those who have. And until next time, it's been Paul Piper. Take care.